Hello, this is Stephen and Juliet from Open Square, and in today's video we're responding to a question from an IT leader, which is, how do I help my team to develop their careers? It's a good question, and something that I'm glad you've asked. Is I would say that that's an important responsibility of a leader, is to help their teams develop. We live in, or we're working in such a growth-based world right now, when new technology, new ideas and so on, so we have to be learning and developing all the time. But it's not something that, or it can happen naturally, but perhaps we need to put a little bit of structure and a bit of thinking around it to help, and that's probably where we can provide some support in this video. So what would you do if someone came to you with that question of how can they help their teams develop their careers? What would you say?
I think it's that there are so many things you can do, and depends also what your company structure is. But I think as a leader, there's much more you can do to help encourage those conversations around career development that isn't pinned to a formalised reward pay structure, that isn't an appraisal system. In fact, I would almost tip your appraisal system on its head and create we'll refer you to our appraisal video that we did, but tip it on its head and talk about learning and development as paramount. That is the most important thing you can do with any industry, but particularly in a tech-based industry. Because your teams will be learning every single day, and it's really unusual to find a team in IT or an individual in IT that says they just want to stay in that role. Some do, some just want to do one thing, but actually if you got to know them, say you got to know a software developer, they're not going to stay coding in that one language forever and ever. They're not going to do one thing. What you'll find is they're iteratively learning anyway, because something new comes out, something they've seen, something they've heard on Slack or YouTube or whatever it is. They would have read something and they'll be learning. So it's about harnessing some of that and encouraging that growth within your team. So listening. Listen. Maybe put some structure around it to say, if they delivered a particular project or product, you could say, what have you learned? Or identify, give them some feedback. Say, that was pretty awesome. This is what I've seen you do. Because quite often when an individual is in that situation and they're working at such a pace and learning, they are not recognising that they are developing at the same time.
Can I just come in on that? Because I think that's an important point, and certainly with a few other teams I've worked with. Earlier in my career, I would genuinely have a conversation with someone and say, right, we're going to talk about your career and where you're going. And it just feels, I cringe when I think about it. Maybe I'll come back to where I started about the responsibility of a leader. I think the responsibility for a leader is help their teams with opportunity to develop, an opportunity to learn and grow. That may lead to career opportunities, but to suggest that every individual must have a career plan, must know where they're going in their next... I don't think that's true at all. However, spending time developing, or spending time helping your teams to develop their skills and understanding where their passions lie, giving them space to experiment and try things, allowing them to work with other teams, to take different opportunities and find things that light them up, that's your responsibility. It's much more that side, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's much more complex in a multi-generational office that we operate in now. Workspaces are different, and people are having more than one careers. They're pivoting off left, right and centre. There's a lot going on in the world, and that's going to shift even more in the next year or two. So how do you harness that? I think it's not to have a structure, but not wrap it around in the traditional sense that so we want to promote somebody that they should be aspiring to be the next VP or the next director or the next CEO. Not everyone wants to do that, and actually even if they say they want to be the next CEO or the next CTO, I'm really interested in why they're thinking that.
Mm.
What's actually going on? It could be a power thing, it could be a traditional thing that, you know, it expects that ladder, or it could be that they want to learn, when you cut under the surface, they want to learn a particular thing. So you need to be asking questions and giving feedback and listening as to what it is they really want to do.
Yeah, maybe we could include the word fulfilling. How can I help my teams develop fulfilling careers, or and so on? And that's a good place to be. In terms of practicalities, because I know we've talked a little bit around the theme here. In terms of practicalities, Juliet mentioned listening along the way, and that's very important. Somewhere in our video series, in the set that we've recorded at the moment, so I'm not sure quite what the order is at the moment, but we've got a session, one particularly about listening, which comes up dealing with remote teams. Listening to where your teams are and helping them to clarify their thinking is very important in this space. Providing opportunities for people is very important, and also don't assume that people will just come to you and give you ideas and say, I really want to try this thing. You may need to throw ideas to them to say there's an opportunity for someone to come up. A team over here needs someone to act as a scrum master for a while. I know you've not done that before. Do you fancy giving it a go? There's no...
Well, the other way to spin that is because some people might be frightened of being plonked into a new role without any, because that's not what they want to do. But if there are skills to do that, you could say, look, give them an opportunity in a particular project, or, you know, you had a great idea the other day. Would you go and help this team out and share some of your thinking? So maybe do it.
Yeah,
it's almost
right.
like a bit of reverse psychology, but encouraging people that a bit frightened, because if they really want to do that and aspire to that, or want to give it a go, but are frightened of just being put into a role, you can get them to sit in with somebody. Peer learning is fantastic. Get them to take part in a product or a project that's going on in an organisation.
It is. It is. Sorry, I agree. I just sound like I didn't. Don't agree with much you say. But there was... this is a personal style thing for me, where if there's potential in someone, then I will want to help with the environment, help with the situation to give them an opportunity. So if people are worried about trying something new, which they obviously, very likely will be, then put emphasis on how safe it is also. So if you were saying, I'd like you to facilitate this meeting, or would you try facilitating this session? I think you'd be really good at it, really capable, whatever the setup is. Introduce it as a trial. So you can tell people that we're trying this out, we'll get some experience. Make it safe to fail, safe to get it wrong. Yeah. And make sure you follow through on that it's safe to get it wrong. Then otherwise you can get into a situation where nothing happens, because a person says that they might want to go and try that thing in the future, but there's always another exam, or there's always another person they've got to speak to before they actually do it, and that doesn't really eventually get you anywhere.
But it's a good point about safety and environment, because if you do that regularly and then just you step back and let your teams take over something at a different point in your meeting or a review or whatever it is, then that becomes natural. It's creating a much safer environment. It almost becomes a norm in that space, and then you'll find that people with different strengths, and you'll see if they light up or not, and actually they'll then go, actually I don't want to do that anymore, I'd like to do this over here.
I'm doing what I'm doing today because I discovered how much of the stuff that I didn't like elsewhere. Well, hopefully that's provided you some tips. For the record, I do agree with a great deal that Juliet says. I was just being mean unnecessarily earlier. I do genuinely hope you get some useful tips from this. Listen to your teams. Be as open and supportive as you can to create environments that people can try things safely, and then amplify the things that people are good at. Give them opportunities to do that more.
And look for the spark. You'll know when they're excited about it.
Take care, all the best for now, and we'll see you soon on another video. Bye-bye.
Thank you.